Okay, let's head on into our 3-3 work together, where we will be practicing some more of our journalizing. So once again, let's read the instructions. Again, we've got Norma Dirks, who has the Dirks Copy Center and uses the following accounts. We can see those in our chart of accounts up here. Boop, 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 boop. And then we want to journalize the transactions, continuing on the next blank line of page 1 of the journal. And our source documents are abbreviated as check is C, receipt is R, sales invoice is S, and calculator tape is T. So let's take a look at our transactions. We've got 6 of them to do today. So once again, I'm just going to pull this up out of the way here. Notice once again that we have our transactions that we did in the last 2 days here. So we're just going to continue on. So it says on April 12th, we paid cash for rent of $650, check number 4. So we come on over here, as I talked about yesterday, since it's not the first line of the journal, we do not need to have the month April. So we just put the date of the 12th, and then we need to discern what's going to be our debit. I always, again, look to cash. If we're paid cash, it's a cash credit. If we received cash, it's a cash debit. So that always gives me a good indicator. So since we paid cash, cash is going to be credited, which means that rent expense is going to be our debit. C4, rent expense is going to get the debit of $650, and cash will get our credit of $650. Now, if you weren't sure what to call it, you can always once again check your chart of accounts, and you'll see that rent expense is listed right there. Our second transaction is on April 13th. It says we received cash from sales for $2,500, T13. So we come on down here and we put our date of the 13th, and then we need to figure out what's going to go in our account title. Now remember, this one is going to be a little different in and of the fact that it says we received cash from sales. So we have a cash debit and a sales credit. Now, if you remember, sales credit and cash debit, those are both special amount columns, which means that we're not actually going to have an account title listed here. So instead, does anybody remember what goes there? I hope someone said a check mark. So we click on our drop-down menu and choose our check mark, and then we come over here and put T13 as our document number. Now remember, at this point in our journaling, we have not talked about the post reference. You might see in your book that they put a check mark here. We don't have the option to do that yet. We will once we get into chapter 4. So then we just need to put in our amounts, make sure we're in the correct column, sales credit for $2,500 and cash debit for $2,500. On the 14th of April, we sold services on account to K-Spa. So remember, at this point, what's happening is K-Spa bought something from us but did not pay for it. So what's happening is our sales is going up with a credit, and our accounts receivable is going up with a debit. Remember that accounts receivable, and you could check here, accounts receivable for K-Spa means that those individuals owe us money, they just haven't paid us yet. So we come down here and we put the 14th. Our account title is going to be accounts receivable, K-Spa, S1 for sales invoice 1, and accounts receivable gets the debit of $480, and our sales gets a credit of $480. And that is our third transaction for today. Our next one is on April 19th. It says we paid cash for an electric bill. Electric is kind of tricky. The universal term for that is called utilities. Utilities can also be water, garbage, electricity, things like that. So we actually lump all of those together in one account called utilities expense. So we come down here and we put the 19th. Our utilities expense is going to get the debit of $220, and our cash is going to get the credit of $220 because we did pay that electric bill right away. Next up is on April 20th, we received cash on account from K-Spa. So remember, K-Spa had bought things for us 6 days or from us 6 days earlier, but didn't pay for them. 6 days later, we receive a check for $255, receipt number 2. So we plug in the 20th. Accounts receivable is still going to be our account title. It's just that in this transaction, accounts receivable is actually going to be credited because it's going down. They paid us, so they no longer owe us money. So that asset is going down by $255. And what's happening is we get a $255 cash debit. In our last transaction, it says we paid cash to the owner as a withdrawal of equity for $1,500. So once again, the date is the 21st. If you forget what the withdrawal of equity means, remember, check your chart of accounts. We come down here. It's Norma Dirks drawing. Remember that drawing account is special because it shows how much money the owner takes out for their personal use. That's like when you pay yourself as the sole owner of a business. We keep that separate from our capital account. So we have Norma Dirks drawing, and check number 6. Drawing is kind of one of those funky accounts, remember. Drawing is an owner's equity, but since drawing technically reduces owner's equity, it increases with a debit and decreases with a credit. So Norma Dirks drawing is going to have a debit of $1,500 and cash will be credited for $1,500. And those are our 6 transactions. So we have almost a complete journal page. So why don't we go over to our 3.3 on your own and do your application and then your terms and questions as well.